Hello everyone, nice to see you back again. I'm really pleased because all of you, when we did your weight measurements and your waist, everything is going according to plan. Are you all happy with your own achievements and goals? Yeah. I know we've all had individual chats as to your targets and goals up to now, but I think everybody's doing absolutely fantastic job, so that's great. What I'd like to cover in today's session is really about food labels and about eating out, precious to eat, and so on, okay? Because particularly in this part of the world, many of us rely on packaged foods, on cans, on tins, and it's important to be aware of what's in the food you're eating. If you're one of those people that actually tends to mainly do home-cooked foods, it's not an issue. But even then, you might be having a cereal for breakfast, or you might be having the odd biscuits or crisps or whatever, and it's useful to know how one brand compares with another. So the first part of the session is very much going to be on food labeling, and then we go on to a bit about eating out and menus and so on. That reminds me, you know, I asked you if you could remember to bring menus from your favorite eating out places. Did you remember to do that?
Yeah.
You've all got your menus?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent, great. So let's start with food labels. Do you know the reason why the food labels are there? What's the purpose of food labels, do you think?
So we can see what we're putting in our bodies.
Okay, so basically food labeling is giving you information about that particular product. So what I'd like to do is I want you to all have a packet of cereal. The reason I picked cereals is only because it's just easier to compare, like for like. So you just pick one from here. So perhaps you can have the Weetabix, you can have the Special K, you can have a big packet of cornflakes and Shreddies, right? So if you turn it around and have a look at where the food labeling might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you see it?
Yeah.
You're all onto that? So tell me, what can you see?
Oh, it just gives you a description of what's in per 100 gram or per 2
Per
biscuits.
serving or per gram.
Okay.
100 gram.
Right? Has everybody can see that, yeah?
Yeah.
So just so that you're aware what the information is on food labels, so every packet, so whether it's cereals or whether it's a frozen product or whether it's bread or anything like that, there are different sections in your food label. Just see if you can find those. So the nutrition label, that's what the label's all about. It lists the nutrients found in that food, okay, which you all said already. Per serving, so a lot of but for example, like Weetabix, it tells you.
Yeah, per 2 biscuit or per 100 gram.
Yeah. Now, this is the important bit because some products may say per serving and some are actually giving you something quite specific like 2 biscuits. But majority of products might just say per 100 grams or per serving, but your serving may be different to mine. So you need to be aware that it may not be very accurate depending on the serving sizes, because per serving means different things to different people. If something is very specific, like 2 biscuits, then you know exactly where you're at. But if it's just saying per serving, some people might be having 3 biscuits, right? 100 grams is very useful though, comparing 2 similar products. So before we move on to anything else, you've all got cereals.
Yeah.
Can I just ask you, look for the per 100 gram column. Has everybody got per 100 grams? Can you just read out per 100 grams as to what the calories are? So can I just start from this end, Noor? For the Weetabix, per 100 grams,
362 calories.
per 100 grams.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the Special K?
375.
Per 100 grams.
Yeah.
Lali, what about the cornflake?
378.
Per 100 grams?
370.
Okay. So have you noticed that they're all quite similar as far as total calories are concerned? So these are all cereals, right? But you have to remember that that is just giving you the overall calories, but everyone is going to be slightly different in other of the nutrients. So the next value, we've already talked about the calories, which which you've all read out to me now. But you'll be also see on the packets, it's not just kilocalories, but some actually say kilojoules,
Yeah.
which is just a different way of measuring energy. But we, in this country, we tend to be very much calories. So on that ingredient list or on the label, you should have a section on carbohydrates. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
So the carbohydrates on yours, I'm sure it'll say sugars, starches, or some of them might say carbohydrates of which sugars are. I just want to point out here that anything that ends in OSE actually means sugar. Can anyone think of any words ending in OSE that might be considered sugar?
Glucose?
Yeah.
Is it fructose?
Anything else?
And the sucrose, is it sucrose?
Yeah. So OSE, so sucrose, fructose, glucose, xylose, anything OSE, because sometimes it can be very confusing. I mean, majority of the times it's quite clear on the packet that it's sugar, but sometimes it might say maltose or lactose. Those are all different versions. Okay. Now, is there any fat section in any of the cereals
Yeah.
you've got?
Yeah.
So again, can you just read out, Cynthia, what it says in the fat section?
1.5 grams.
No, how does it give you that figure?
Of fat of which saturates.
Right, okay. So basically what most labels will give you is a total fat. Has everybody got one there? And then it says of which so much is saturated, so much is polyunsaturated. Is that quite clear? Everybody
Yeah.
understands
Yeah.
the difference on that, okay? And then we come to the fiber. Is there fiber column in any
Yeah.
of that? So as I've said before, that's the indigestible part, you know, of the food. And what we're looking for as part of your weight loss program is to try and increase the intake of fiber in the diet. So can we go through the cereals now again? So Noor, perhaps we go to the two biscuits. How much fiber is in the 2 Weetabix?
It's 3.8 grams.
Okay, Cynthia, what about in the Special K?
1.5 grams.
Mm-hmm. Lali? So you, sorry, what are you looking at, per serving there, Cynthia? Or?
Yeah, per serving.
Okay,
3 grams
per serving. What have you got, cornflakes?
cornflakes. Is it?
Is that per serving? Because corn,
Yeah,
Yeah.
per 30 gram serving hers is.
that's
Yeah,
3 grams of fiber.
Yeah.
Okay,
4.1 grams.
okay.
16 servings.
So all cereals will be slightly different as far as fiber is concerned. Okay, but I'm actually surprised that Weetabix is lower than cornflakes. Let's just check that. 2 biscuits,
Maybe
fiber 3.8. Yeah, can I just have a look at the
Now
cornflakes?
0.9 grams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's the
la-
servings we're doing.
Yeah, reading labels can be really confusing, as you've just found out. No, because it's actually quite small. And also,
Yeah.
when you're busy in the supermarket, you know, and you've got young kids or you're in a rush,
Yeah.
how often are you going to be picking each one and looking at the
I've
tiny?
never
You get
read
your
the
glasses, you never read the
Never.
labels. That's the thing, you know, many people don't. And we're not saying you have to read every label, but what I would recommend is that of the cereals or of the particular foods that your family tends to use a lot of, to perhaps be familiar with what kind of quantities they have of the different, the fat, the sugar, and so on. So of the cereals that you've come across, obviously, as far as fiber is concerned, Weetabix is quite rich in fiber, and so are the Shreddies, as compared to cornflakes is the lowest. So that's just an example to show you when you start to compare different cereals, you know, that's a very useful information you can get from it. And of course, sodium. We talked about salt in your, I think, clinic visit 1, where we mentioned that one of the healthy eating tips is to cut down on salt. So of course, it's not linked with losing weight, but it's certainly linked with blood pressure. But also remember that sodium can also be written as, could be rock salt or sea salt or garlic salt or monosodium glutamate. So anything which says things like that means sodium or salt.
A lot of the time they use sodium, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
sodium.
not salt.
Yeah. But you know, again, in one of my previous groups, I had a gentleman who actually stopped using our table salt, but switched over to the rock salt, thinking it was going to be much better. But the problem is the active ingredient is the sodium, and so whether it's rock salt or normal table salt, the active ingredient is still there. So he didn't actually, by doing that, he didn't change the amount of sodium that was going in the body. It's just the
That's
type
what
of...
they say, that rock salt's so much better for you, don't they?
Well,
Lot of people do.
it's like people saying, you know, sea salt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
And they're just saying that, possibly thinking there's going to be minerals in there.
Mm.
I mean, again, you have to eat vast amounts, and you don't want to be doing that anyway. Okay.
Salt.
Salt is salt. So that is what the information that the food labels are giving you. What do you know what you should be looking for? So this is giving you the information, okay? But if you're trying to lose weight, or even if you're not trying to lose weight, just maintaining your weight, from the health point of view, do you know what you should be looking for on a food label?
No sugar, no
and
fat.
salt.
Carbohydrates? Of which sugar?
Do you know what levels you should be looking for? Do you have any idea? So say, for example, you pick a packet of food and it says fat of which 10 grams is total, 5 saturates, 5 poly. Is that good or bad? Do you know the figure to look for, the figures to look for?
No, but
really.
as
I
far
always
as I know,
go less
sorry.
than 4, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. 4 or less. I find that's better for you. Saturated fat, 4 or less.
Okay, that's one way of looking at it. Sorry.
But you know, like most of the packaging now has the traffic light system. It
Yeah.
give you an idea, like if it's red, you know it's bad. If it's kind of green or like orange, it's kind of, well, the orange is quite good, but the green is fine.
That's a point, but not all products at the moment have got the traffic light. More and more are coming onto the market. But yes, obviously, the more greens there are in the front, the better for you. But some don't have green, some will
Yeah.
have red, but they're good at other things. So it's trying to get the balance right. But just to give you all a kind of guideline as to what you should be looking for, is use the 10-10-6 rule. Okay, it's just easy figures to remember. So if you're looking at the label, if the fat is less than 10 grams per 100 gram of the food, it's fine. It's a healthier option. So less than 10 of fat, less than 10 of sugar, and more than 6 of fiber. So 10-10-6 rule. Because there's some foods that are going to fit one criteria and not the other. So it really depends what you're after. But 10-10-6 is just an easy way to remember that if that particular product fits that, you've made a healthier choice. But obviously, as it says here, you know, try to choose the lowest as far as the fat, sugar, and salt levels, and the fiber. The higher the fiber. Are you all comfortable now reading food labels, do you think?
I'm comfortable, but I just think 10 grams of fat per 100 grams is a lot of fat.
That's total fat, remember.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's not going to saturate or unsaturated, because as I said in the first group visit, is that fat doesn't matter where it's coming from. It's got the same number of calories. So it doesn't matter whether that 10 grams is saturates or polyunsaturates, you're still going to get the same calories. Obviously, saturates are not so good for the heart, so it's better having less saturates. But if you're trying to lose weight, I wouldn't just home in on looking just at the saturates label. You need to look at the total fat. And if you're looking at the total fat, anything that fits less than 10 grams per 100 is what you should be looking for. Right? Do you think when you go next time now, you might look at food labels?
Yeah.
Or
think
do
we
you
should
think you wouldn't
try
bother?
Try.
Try. I mean, it really depends how often you're getting processed or packaged foods. Do you tend to eat packaged foods?
No.
Not at all,
No? Do you have cereals? You don't have cereals for breakfast or
I
anything?
do.
Okay, right.
I do. I intend to buy from Iceland some frozen food for my kids.
Okay.
So this actually will help me now to read.
Read the labels.
Yeah.
Okay, right. What about you? I know you said you never read labels, and you know nobody expects you normally. But do you think you might?
I don't
if
buy a lot of packet food or.
okay,
I normally
Yes.
cook.
you normally cook everything
Yeah.
from scratch. I mean, I think, as I said, the labeling isn't for everybody, but it's just useful to know, to understand what the labeling means and what you need to be looking out for. So as long as you know 10, 10, 6, you know, it's a rough
Yeah.
figure, then you've made the healthy choices. Okay, fine, thank you. You can put those back. Okay, now next very important bit is actually eating out, precious to eat, socializing. So let's get your menus and see what your favorite restaurants are. So what was your favorite restaurant?
I normally go to Cleovan.
Okay,
So-
so no, I don't want to know anything yet other than what restaurants you're going through. Right.
I go to a South Indian restaurant which is called Sarasas.
Okay,
I go to a vegetarian Dilly Valley.
all right. And
And Chinese.
a Chinese. Okay, a nice variety there. Before we move on to what you particularly choose, I just want to do a little bit of homework or background as to how you can make things healthier. You mentioned at last visit as to one of the triggers was going out. But one of the coping strategies, or I should say several of the coping strategies, oops, if I can move this page. Is planning ahead. Okay, if you plan ahead, you can actually make quite a difference to what you pick from the restaurant, right? So plan ahead, pick restaurant carefully. The reason I've put that is that some restaurants, perhaps it's not the ones you've picked, but some restaurants have like a buffet service.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can eat as much as you want. And I don't know about you, but whenever I get to a place like that, you feel obliged to eat more.
But this
because-
one, the one I go,
Right.
they have for lunchtime buffet
Right.
where you can help yourself.
Right. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but, you know,
Yeah.
certainly places like that, because you feel you're paying a set price,
Yeah.
that you can eat as much as you want. So it might be worthwhile looking when you pick your restaurant. Of course, you've all brought your favorite ones with you, but you know, if you go for anything randomly, try and avoid those. And another way is eating fewer calories prior to that. Okay, so before we go on to the next ones, because this was just like a starting point, let's just see what restaurants you've picked. So Clay Oven is an Indian restaurant. So what would you normally choose at the
Well,
restaurant?
for starter, we'll have onion bhaji, that's deep fried.
Okay, fine.
So-
And then,
So then for the main course, I've got chicken tikka, lamb chop, and I've got tandoori mixed grill and tuna gosh.
gosh, you're making me hungry now.
And then I've saag paneer, like veg, but that's not in like avoiding there, and naan. And for drink, I will have lassi.
Okay. And do you tend to pick the same foods every time you go?
Yeah,
Or?
more or less the same, yeah.
Okay. What about you, Cynthia?
I would go for vegetable spring rolls,
Mm-hmm.
potato chips, and gobi manchuri.
Okay.
And then I take the ghee roast dosa.
All right.
Masala dosa. I
And-
like that, and every time I go, I must have that one.
Okay.
And then I like my lassi, mango lassi.
Right. Lali?
I've got to go for the paneer samosas, they're so nice.
Okay.
They're only small, so I'd have about 4 of those.
Right.
And I go for chane bhature
Mm-hmm.
and paneer and saag.
Okay. And
I'd go for butterfly king prawns in the
Mhm.
restaurants,
right.
a crispy duck
Mhm.
with pancakes,
Right.
and sometimes chicken fried rice and cashew nut chicken curry.
Okay. How often? I'll just go around. How often would you be eating out? You know, how often? Would,
Probably once every 2 months, I would say.
once every 2 months, right?
I would go once a month.
Once a month,
Twice a week.
twice a week.
To this particular restaurant,
No, generally eating out.
generally.
But I mean, yes, since you've brought the menu, for,
Okay,
say for
this
that.
one's probably once a month,
Right.
but every other weekend, probably different restaurants.
Okay. So there's quite a variety here. So for example, if you're only going out to eat once in 2 months, it doesn't really make that much of difference as to what you're ordering, as long as you're only doing it occasionally. If you're doing it on a regular basis, if you're eating out regularly, like once a week or twice a week or every other day, then obviously it's really important to make the right choices. So I know what you ordered, but I'm not particularly sort of worried that, oh my God, you're ordering all that stuff and you're going to go totally off your target. The idea is to, you're only having once in 2 months, fine,
So
but
it's
we can,
okay
well,
twice,
it's
like twice, like once, what is it?
once every 2 months.
Once every 2 months.
Once every
yeah.
2 months as a treat, absolutely fine, but there's still changes that you probably can make. So do you want to just run through the onion bhaji you
Yeah,
had?
this one I know it's deep fry. The
It-
healthy bit in this one is the tandoori mix grill. That's the healthier one. And I got the chicken tikka. That's grill again. The two kind of unhealthy. What I have noticed, the lamb chops and the buna gosh and saag paneer.
Okay, is there anything on the menu which you're looking at that you could swap your onion bhaji for, that you think might be a healthier option? Because most restaurants, they actually have very few healthy starters, but depends on the cuisine, of
I'll
course.
probably just mix it all together. I just have
Okay.
a salad.
Right. Okay, would you be happy with that?
Yeah, because I'm having a lot of food after that, so
Right.
probably, yeah.
Okay. What about from the main dishes? You've already mentioned that obviously anybody else who's goes to the Indian restaurants, if you're looking for a main dish or even as far as starters go, anything that is been grilled or tandoori versions are obviously much lower in fat than the sort of curried or fried and so on. Okay, so you've already mentioned that, and you yourself already picked out about the lamb, gosht and so on. Red meat, of course, is going to be much higher, and particularly in restaurants, the way the saag and the lamb are cooked, they can be very rich. And what else did you have?
Yeah, the paneer saag normally, there's free like dish I can see, like you can see the oil just floating on top of it, like the buna gosh and the lamb chop actually, and saag paneer. There's a lot of oil in there, so.
So, are you quite happy to make alternative choices, but still be able to go to that restaurant?
Yeah,
Are
of
there
course.
enough options there for you that you
I think
feel?
that the option is there, but I particularly like this, that's why
You have
go
those.
for this.
As I said, if you're doing it once in a while, it's absolutely fine. But like you mentioned yourself that if you are able to make those slight changes, they're just going to count towards. You have to remember that gaining weight doesn't happen overnight. That it's only when we're regularly having a small increase in our calorie intake over time that gets weight gain. But obviously, to lose weight, we still have to stick to our right eating plan and exercise. So Cynthia, any healthier options on your compared to what you were having?
Yeah, I normally go for ghee roast dosa. Maybe I would have chosen maybe plain dosa instead of ghee.
Okay.
Maybe,
Right.
yeah, I might try that because even though I like ghee because it's quite tasty, but I think I'll go for the plain one.
Right. So there is a healthier option there.
Yeah, there
And you
is.
mentioned something else you were having.
Oh
the,
yeah, spring rolls.
Uh-huh.
Instead of having 4 pieces, maybe I can have 2.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And lassi, maybe I should just go for the plain one rather than sweet.
Yeah, that's just an easy
Easy
change. But
change.
what you'll notice is even just making those slight changes,
Yeah.
you will have saved quite a few calories just on that. What about you, Lali?
So I've been makki di roti instead of samosas and chana pura.
Right. Okay. But you'll be happy with that.
Toby Carberry.
And Toby Carberry, followed by that. Okay. Again, because you seem to be going out quite a lot in terms of, if you are eating out quite a lot, that is going to add up. If it's once in a while, it wouldn't really be much of a difference. So you do need to be slightly careful and make the right choices just to help you reach your goal at this for the specific time given, right? What about you?
There's nothing here, it's not high in calories, Chinese food, everything.
Well, it can be, depending on... What you have to remember is anything that's going to be deep fried, of course, to try and stay away from. So let's just go back to how you can make eating out still pleasurable, but still stay on the healthy kind of side. Okay, so we've already said the planning ahead. It often helps if you know, most of us know when we're going to be going out, but I'm not saying you starve yourself, because then you'd actually end up eating a lot more at the restaurant, but to sort of plan it so that you're not having your full allowance at breakfast and lunch. You save some of it for your evening meal to go out, and always eat something light before you go. So whether it's a piece of fruit, whether it's a low fat, low sugar yogurt or something, so that you're not going with a totally empty stomach, because there's nothing worse than walking to a restaurant, smelling all those foods. Sorry.
Yeah, you know, like compared to my
And then eating all
menu
the
and hers, like she just mentioned, it's not high in calorie. Normally when I'm going to Chinese, when I come home, by that time I have to eat again. But even when I'm eating this,
Yeah.
when I come home,
It's more
like, even
satisfying.
In the morning, I won't feel hungry. Like with that one, when I come back home, I have to eat again.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I mean, people do say that. Actually, I've heard that before, that people find that eating Chinese food, for whatever reason, doesn't make them feel full. You get full up when you're eating
when
it,
you're there,
but
yeah.
you're actually quite hungry soon after that. Maybe it's the fiber content of that meal, okay, and maybe the way the food's been cooked. But certainly with the Indian food, because if you're having a lot of vegetarian dishes like the lentils and the spinach, the saag, a lot of fiber in there, so that's possibly why you're feeling fuller for longer. Plan to order without looking at the menu. That often helps, because often this is not so much in the restaurants you're used to going, but if you went to a restaurant that you haven't been before, have a look at the menu if you get a chance before you go there, and work out the healthier options, because there's nothing more embarrassing than going to a restaurant with family or friends and then saying, oh, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, and then saying, oh, for God's sake, get on with it. And they say, it's all right, just have what you want, because people are impatient. You've come out to have a good time, so go and have a good time, but have it all in your head to say, right, I'm going to pick A, B and C, so nobody can pick on you. But you need to make them aware as well, because otherwise the temptation will be there. For God's sake, forget it. Yeah. The one thing is, ask for what you want. Most restaurants are pretty good these days. They will give you substitutions. So for example, if there is chips with something, or if there is fried fish of some kind, and you say, I don't want fried, can it be poached or steamed? They do tend to cater to your needs. So it's worthwhile asking. And, share. Most of us, the portions are quite big. We're just being greedy. Right. And also because it's an occasion, and if it's a special occasion, fine. But if you do this regularly, just share the courses. Either go for 2 courses rather than 3, or share the main or share the dessert, whichever way. Right. So that's quite good in terms of cutting down your total intake. And obviously, when you're looking at the menu, just choose foods carefully in terms of, is it grilled, baked, is it a lot of sauces? And if you can see, like you mentioned, when you get your portion of lamb gosht, you can actually see the oil. You mentioned that. I mean, even if you want to order that again, rather than what I've seen some people doing is actually mixing it and putting it on their plate, you might want to yourself just scoop it out, put it on the side plate and carry on. Have it. So those are just some of the ideas. Anything else that you can think of in terms to help you still going to eat out but without the extra calories?
Like you mentioned, have something to eat. Maybe I'll have a banana before I go.
Yeah, bananas are quite filling.
Yes.
So anything that you can curb some of the appetite. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do is now I need you to do a little bit of an exercise on sort of the social pressures to eat. And sorry?
Should we get on with some press-ups?
No, pressures to eat. Okay. So this is actually in the visit. Sorry, I might have to stretch across to get the leaflets. Thank you. Actually, pressures to eat are in your last clinic visits. When we discussed the carbs and the triggers to eat, there is a section, there's a page in there on pressures to eat. Did you bring, you all brought that booklet with you because we talked about the targets from that. Do you have that in front of you?
Which one?
From last visit, the visit 4?
yeah, I got it.
Yeah?
Yep.
Can I just have a look what page
Oh, yeah.
that...
Is it 4?
Yeah.
Okay, what I'd like you to do is have a look, if you've got your visit 4 with you, have a look on page 6. Okay, it's got what it's calling, it says eating behavior exercise. Just have a quick read of that. Ignore the page next to it, just have a read through that, just a quick read.
You mean 7, page 7.
6.
Page 6. It's got eating
6
behavior
and 7.
exercise.
Okay, all right. Sorry.
So ignore page 7, just go through page 6. So it's just a quick going. So now what I want to do is I want you to actually get into pairs, and if you turn to page 8, right, just move on to page 8, and it's got blanks.
Yeah.
So I want you, with the person sitting next to you, just to go through and ask them the question or think back of when you felt you had to eat something. Not because you were hungry, but when did you feel the pressure to eat something? So a situation and perhaps how you could have dealt with it. So the page before is just giving you an example. But so do you want to just get into pairs and sort of look at, think back, basically just think back and pick a time when you ate something that you didn't really want to. Yeah? So write it down and think of how you could have broken that link.
It's not just biscuit, it can be anything.
It could be anything. Yeah. So it's really what you, as an individual, what you ate when you didn't really want it.
So we're going to write a word? Or
No, you do, Lali will do yours and you do hers.
Okay.
You're right. That's right.
Well,
Like everyone's gone upstairs.
no, but basically it's thinking back. Sorry, you want your Chris because you're alone. So yeah, so basically if you can write it down on her behalf so that you can...
Send somebody else with that?
I guess I could go on to friends or something.
I mean, the idea of this exercise is just to make you aware that, you know, most of us go through phases where we tend to eat not because we're hungry, but because of a situation. So I just wanted you to be aware of what that situation might have been and how you can actually link it in terms of breaking that link. So what did you have for Cynthia?
Well, Cynthia said she had pakora.
Mm-hmm.
The reason she had it because her husband was away and she was just bored.
Right.
And that's the reason she had it. The way she could have avoided it, just go out, do something, well, find something better to do.
So you've already sorted out, you had a trigger, there was a situation because you were on your own, bored, whatever, and hence you had the pakora and vice versa. That's great. What about you? What was Noor doing?
He was having chocolate with coffee just because he had it in the house. So I think his plan was not to have the chocolate in the house.
So that's a coping strategy of not to have. Great, you've sorted your own problems out. Right, all right, you two chatterboxes. Right, yeah. Well, what did you have? What was your
Anita
trigger?
has biscuits and tea at 5 o'clock.
Yeah. So coping. How can you break that?
Not go home at 5.
Not going. Where would you
Go
go
shop.
instead, or can I ask?
Go shopping or go to the gym longer. That's what I did yesterday. I was longer in the gym.
Oh, so
When I
you
got
missed
home
your
yesterday,
missed that 5 o'clock
queue.
fix.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. What
Because I don't
about?
have tea after 6 because I can't sleep at night then.
Okay, right.
So
That's a
what
great.
I'm left.
That's a great. You're actually doing two things there. You've actually stopped the calories from the biscuit, and you're doing more
Burning.
exercise. Right. What about you, Lali? What did Lali? What was her?
10 o'clock crisps
Mm-hmm.
and cup of tea.
Right. And how is you going to break that link?
It's my time. It's when I watch my programs. Everyone's gone to bed.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't want to break it.
You don't want to break it.
It's
Okay.
her time.
The reason
But
for
I've had healthy options of the crisps.
okay, yeah, that's fine. The reason for the exercise is just to make you aware that there are sometimes we are eating because we just for the sake of it. We don't need it.
Then you feel guilty.
Then you feel guilty. Then you know, you're angry with yourself, or you think, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done that. So what's the point of being on this plan? And you know, don't think of that way. Even if you've had one bad day, just get back, because one bad day isn't going to ruin the whole program. Okay. The reason this is mentioned, and obviously this is in your last week's clinic visit, it's important to look through it, because then you can actually figure out in your own day-to-day what is happening. What is it the triggers that make you eat certain things? And then hence the importance of keeping the 7-day food diary. If you notice that when we asked you to keep the food diary, it was really to note down the amounts you're eating, what you're eating, and your physical activity, and also perhaps how you're feeling. Because often there's a link between the extras we're having with our moods. And it just makes you more aware, so you can do something about it. Right? Any questions? Because you've all been very quiet. Normally I have very chatty groups. No questions? You're happy with what we've discussed? You're all going to look at food labels?
Yeah.
Okay, so today's clinic visit is all here. Clinic visit 5, like clinic visits 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a participant booklet for you to refer to. Again, all the information, everything we discussed today is in the book, but like every visit, just move on to the last page where the target setting is. So remember that each time we're building on the targets. So if you could please write down and let me know what your targets are going to be until we meet again. And then we'll have finished. Do remember that anything we cover is here. So don't just take this at home and put it on one side. When you get time, look through it, because it is quite important to just remind yourself as to what we've covered, because there's a lot to take on board. But when you have time, and share it with your family, just to give them the support. And sometimes, especially when you've got kids, like teenage kids or something, most of them think they know it all.
Yeah.
And so it's quite important to say, did you know? And you can be the knowledgeable mom or dad or brother, sister. That'll soon shut them up. Right? So at the right of the last page again is the target setting. So I'd just like to go through with you now. If you can just tell me if you've got any particular target in mind for that. Let's start from there for a change. Have you got any particular target which you want to build on from your previous targets after today's session?
Just not go home at 5 o'clock.
So are you saying that each day?
I'll spend more time in the gym because I tend to go every day now.
So when you say you spend more time, is there a factor? It would be another half an hour, another 10 minutes, another
5 minutes, and I'll be home late because of
You'll have
traffic.
missed the fun.
And then I'll have to cook.
Okay, so what you're saying is the target is going to be an extra 5 minutes in the gym.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. For how often are you going? 5 days a week, 7
I
days?
go 5 days now.
Okay, so for 5 days of the week, when you go to the gym, extra 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right, so make sure you write that down for
Yeah.
you. What about you, Lally? Anything you want to set?
Not have my tea at 10 o'clock.
What would you do instead?
Not have anything.
Are you able to do that?
Yeah, I could try.
So at the moment you're having the tea 7 days a week?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so, and the tea is linked with the biscuit, or is it the crisps that happen there? So you are linking tea with crisps. So what you're saying is that if you stop the tea, you wouldn't have the crisps. Right. So are you going to write that down?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's your target for next week. What you all have to remember is that, whatever targets you're picking, make sure they are achievable. Make sure they're realistic. Okay, and quite specific, so that you're all aware that yes, you managed to do that. What about you, Cynthia?
I've actually got 2 targets. One is you mentioned the carbohydrates, with the brown rice and the white rice.
Okay. So
So
that was
my husband actually tasted the brown rice, so he said we need to cook that more often.
Oh, great.
So yeah.
So you're building on your last visit's target. Excellent.
This week.
Right.
And the other one is my friend started her walks, and she said she only does 15 minutes walk in the morning before dropping the kids off. So she asked me if I can come. So I said I will go with her and try that once a week.
So that's an extra on top of what you've already done.
Yeah.
Great, super. So if you want to write that down. Okay, and Noor, what did you opt for?
I think I'll just stick to my original target. For what we have discussed already is working, I'll just increase on it. like increase the time I'm in, and you know, like I met a couple of the girls like in the park and socialize more with friends in the park, which
Okay,
kind of
great, right. Well, that's really good. I mean,
family was there.
with your family, of course, they're all teasing you now. They'll all be following you now. They'll all be visiting you when you're walking just to check with their camera phones. Great. We just need to be a bit more specific in terms of when you've started to do the extra, which you mentioned you were anyway. Is just that if you're building up on that, just to be a bit more specific, that up between now and then, I will continue to do, you know, the extra run or the extra time. So it just needs to be a bit more.
Extra half an hour,
Okay.
like exercise. I would
Yeah.
say.
So would that be 7 days or 5 days?
So that's the one weekend, and
Okay.
the walking that I'm doing.
Yeah,
during
up
the
to
week.
now the targets are as they are.
Yeah.
So the additional target is going to be half an hour extra over the weekend.
Over the weekend, yeah.
Okay, excellent. That's great. Okay, well, thanks very much. So this has been really useful, and I think, you know, you having formed a little group sounds actually quite fun. I might come and join you, or come and spy on what you're actually doing. So we'll be meeting in a month's time. But as before, I'll be calling you, and you know, one of you did call me last time because there was a bit of a sort of panic, but we sorted it out, so it's no problem. Okay, so just ring if there's any issues. But everything is going on track. Everybody's going in the right direction, and I think you should be really proud of yourselves. So well done, and I'll see you in a month's time.